everyone, and welcome to Chapter 2 Club, the Smart Woman's Guide to Divorce and Everything After. Today, I'm here with Virginia Gilbert, licensed marriage and family therapist and author of the book, Transcending High Conflict Divorce, How to Disengage from Your Ex and Find Your Power. And today, we're going to be discussing disengaging with a toxic ex and maybe highlight a little tips on parallel parenting as well. So, Virginia, welcome.
Hi, Melanie. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Why don't we just jump right in and let's get to the core of it.
Yeah. So first I want to actually explain what a high conflict divorce is, because it's different from a garden variety divorce. So a high conflict divorce is when two people stay psychologically engaged with each other. So that generally means that you're really ruminating a lot about your ex, like you're very preoccupied with all the terrible things that they do. You feel really ashamed and alone because you don't have the divorce that like Gwyneth Paltrow has or your friend has. And you just feel trapped. Like, what am I going to do the next 10 years when I have to co-parent with this person and I can't co-parent with them?
Yeah.
So once you know that you're like really psychologically hooked into them, you've got to find ways to disengage.
Okay.
That's really how you're going to empower yourself. It's not by changing your ex, it's by psychologically disengaging. And there's 3 steps to doing that. Okay. The first step is to identify if you have toxic hope. And pretty much everybody that I work with who has a high conflict divorce has toxic hope. Okay. So toxic hope means that you hope for something that's really unlikely, and this wanting something that's unlikely to happen and thinking that it could kind of makes you sick. So like you feel tense, you're angry, you're ruminating all the time. So you have to recognize if you have toxic hope. So one thing that I find people have toxic hope about is they think if they come up with the right collection of words, or if they mount the right defense when they talk to their ex, they can give their ex like this aha moment. You're right. You are the perfect parent. I'm going to change everything I do and follow your parenting steps. Like, I've never seen that happen. So you have to let go of the toxic hope that you can change your ex, and also this idea that there's justice out there.
Yeah.
Like, because you're a good person and they're a jerk, like things should work out your way. Well, life doesn't always happen that way. So recognize if you have toxic hope. Okay. The second step is to practice radical acceptance, which is actually a Buddhist term. It's a mindfulness term. Okay. So radical acceptance means accepting life on life's terms today, which doesn't mean you have to like it. But the suffering comes from this sort of struggle, like this toxic hope. Oh, I've got to make it different. So once you acknowledge what's going on and sort of like kind of feel the pain of it, you can step back from this reactive place to more of an observer place. And it's in that observer place that you can start to think about, what are the things that I can actually do instead of being reactive and having toxic hope. So the third thing, once you're really in radical acceptance, is to focus on the things you can control. The things you control are never your ex. So, for example, let's say, because a lot of people say, I get these emails from my ex and I really want to gag and they're horrible and they like compose like this perfectly crafted 500 words, single spaced email, thinking that they convince their ex, and it doesn't work. So if you're really focusing on what you can control, you stop and you think, wow, I have this urge to do this thing that never works. Mm-hmm. And it makes things even worse.
Yeah.
So what are my other options? Like, what are the mindful choices? Well, I need to calm down. So do I need to do some deep breathing? Do I need to take a walk? Is there a friend that I can call and talk to? Do I need to just sort of sit here with my feelings and see if they can kind of pass? Yeah. Those are the things that you can control. And I find that when people follow these steps, but like in a disciplined way, over time, they start to feel more empowered because they're not reacting as much. They're not letting external events control them. And often when one person changes, the other person changes. But you can't do this thinking, wow, if I follow these 3 steps that Virginia told me about, I can get my ex to change. That's not the point.
Yeah.
But if you change, you kind of show up differently. Maybe you don't look as reactive, or maybe you don't look so scared or as angry. And the other person might notice that. And sometimes the dynamic will change. But again, that's not the point. The point is for you to feel more empowered and disengaged psychologically.
These are excellent, excellent tips. I totally agree with everything. It's easier said than done, right? And it takes a lot of thoughtful practice and just really stopping yourself, because we're all guilty of that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a practice and it will take time. So, if you do these things for a couple months and you find that it's not working and you're still getting tripped up, don't get into judgment, just keep doing it.
And what do you think are some, through this, how people that have kids, the parallel parenting, since you can't really co-parent, like, do you have suggestions on that as it relates to this?
Yeah. So I think, again, it starts with radical acceptance. Like, I'm not going to be able to co-parent. Like, what you've got to sort of accept that your ex is going to do what they want in their household. So there's some things you've got to let go of. Like, maybe they're going to watch more TV than you would like in that household. Maybe they go to bed too late. Just focus on, how am I going to run my house in the best way possible? Obviously there's times where you've got to step in if something really bad is going on in the other house and you have to go to court. But I find that most things you really shouldn't go to court on. But again, like, start with, can I write a better email? Can I learn communication strategies? And I could do a whole other segment on how to communicate effectively. But there's just a lot of acceptance of, I'm just not going to be able to control what they do in their household. But if I can maybe communicate in a more strategic and effective way, maybe I can get them to be collaborative. And I also find that people, empower your children to self-advocate. Because if you try to get involved with what your ex is doing, they're not going to listen to you.
Right.
If you empower your children to self-advocate, then they can kind of maybe work things out with their ex. But that's also teaching them healthy communication and healthy relationship skills.
I love that so much more, because we as parents just try to do everything ourselves and think that we can, control the situation, and we can't, like you said. So I love that, shifting kind of like that mindset on empowering the kids to.
Yeah. And then I guess one last thing, it's like, you want to model resilience.
Yes.
So what they say, you getting all frustrated and like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, you have this horrible father, like, they're going to take that on. But if you sort of model, wow, yeah, this is a tough situation, let's think about the things you could actually do.
Yeah.
Are there ways that you could speak to your dad in a way that he might listen? Let's talk about that.
Yes. I'm a huge proponent of, keeping the peace and not, parental alienation, not doing any of that, and no negative self-talk about any exes, and just really focusing on like moving forward and being in a more positive light. And I think our audience out there really could have some value from this information as well. So thank you so much, Virginia. This was great. And where can we buy your book? Amazon?
Yes, it's Kindle and paperback.
Okay, perfect. And I'll put a link underneath this video interview to Virginia's book and also her website. And I hope our audience out there has appreciated all this information. I know I have, and we will all see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.